Welcome to the Call Your Shot podcast, your weekly sports recap podcast where we break down the hottest headlines, dissect the latest injuries, and serve up our own hard-hitting analysis of the past week in sports. But that's not all. We're not just here to talk about the past, we're here to predict the future as well. On the Call Your Shot podcast, we boldly predict the outcomes of the upcoming week's games.
Getting straight into the NBA, first thing I want to talk about, Drew, is the Rookie of the Year, Victor Wembanyama. Over the past 3 or 4 games, he had been playing solidly and was, putting up similar numbers to Chet Holmgren, about 18, 7 with about 2 blocks. And then he plays the Suns and he's like, okay, let me just, go all NBA real quick. Had the game last night, drops 38 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks against KD and Booker, who returned for the Suns. And, kind of just goes to show not only that Victor Wembanyama is the real deal, but, kind of the concerns that I had for the Suns coming into this, obviously still without Bradley Beal, first game back with Devin Booker, and, how are they going to stop people? Obviously, they're not going to play against a 7-5 unicorn every single week, but I don't understand where the stops are going to come from. Yusuf Nurkic is basically the only size that they have. He gets in foul trouble a lot, and he's not that quick laterally. And then you have Eubanks coming off the bench, who, I don't think it's scaring anybody either. So what have your thoughts been over the past week and a half on Victor Wembanyama, and what are your expectations for the Suns off of this kind of, slow start with injuries?
I was telling you this earlier too. Like I had the under in that game, which had no chance in hell of covering at all.
The Spurs dropped like 40 plus in the first quarter.
Yeah, and they were at I think 107 points or something crazy like that in the third. And I was like, okay, well this is bad. This is real bad. And so I was like, looking at the what the Suns have done so far. Okay, they limited the Warriors to 104 points. They limited the Lakers to 100 points, and then limited the Jazz, who aren't that good, but they still limited them to 104 points. Okay, 114 to the Spurs. They'll play them again. It'll be a little bit of a closer game because they, for all intents and purposes, they got lucky that first game. But no, they just decided, actually, let's just do better next time. We have Popovich. We had this big ass guy, 7'5" wingspan of the Twin Towers. And
they had thrown it to the moon to him.
It was like watching that game, I was like, how do you stop that? Because you just basically throw it to the top of the backboard, and then he just grabs it and then just guides it into the hoop.
They've been bringing him on slowly. I don't know if he was on a minutes restriction to start the first few games and stuff, but then you had Devin Vassell go out with a groin injury, and then it didn't come in at halftime. And they're like, okay, we're just going to play through our best player in Victor Wembanyama. And then crazy. I think he went on a 10-0 run himself to close out the game once the Suns were able to make a comeback and tie the game up late in the fourth quarter. And then he single-handedly beat Devin Booker and KD. And I was like,
yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, I have no idea what to expect from this Spurs team going forward. Especially if you have somebody that's literally impossible to guard. We haven't seen players I don't want to overreact to one game, but we've seen this kind of unstoppable kind of player before with Kareem, but now this guy is shooting threes. And he's not just shoots a couple threes and he's not very good, he's swapping them.
We're not trying to overhype him. The media's already done that enough, but I mean 38, 10 and 2. So it was only the third player in NBA history that was a teenager to drop 35, 10 and 2 with KD and LeBron. And he currently is third in the NBA in clutch time points. So points in the last 5 minutes of the game, just behind LeBron and Luka and right in front of Steph. So I don't know. And you talked about with the Spurs, I didn't have the Spurs even in the play-in. I think they had them just outside the play-in as 11th or 12th, but I thought they were going to be a very fun and young and entertaining team getting up and down the court. And obviously with Victor Wembanyama, Vassell, I'm not exactly sure the extent of his groin injury, but he's honestly looked very good too. So, and then you have a lot of young pieces and a couple. Shots. This is true. I know, but he hits a lot of bad shots.
Okay.
And then you have a few veteran pieces with Jones, the point guard, and Zach Collins, Drew, former Trailblazers great.
So
And then you had Doug McDermott, Dougie Buckets coming off the bench, swapping threes and stuff too. So like they're going to be a very fun and entertaining team. I don't have, I'm not ready to press the panic button or anything on the Suns. They're still 2-3. They still have great offense, and we still haven't seen it with Bradley Beal. It's just like, how often are we going to be able to see them together? And that goes to show it may not be that big of a problem in the regular season, but I think we've seen that chemistry, even when you have these big threes, is very important when you get to the playoffs. And if they're not healthy in the regular season, why are we going to automatically assume that they're going to be healthy in the playoffs? So it's kind of starting to concern me just a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things too where like we've talked about this before, like not on the podcast, but just between us. A lot of the what ifs are built around all these injuries for the West, and a little bit on the East as well too. But the extent of the injuries are kind of what's concerning, like, in terms of like the player value, is what's concerning, is that they have players coming back and everything, and then you play against these what are supposed to be bottom tier teams and you're losing to them, and not showing up in the caliber or in the fashion that you would expect them to. Again, this is beginning of the season. Like
Very small
Booker's
sample
still getting
size.
his feet underneath him, and that's kind of why they wanted to implement this play-in tournament, or the in-season tournament, whatever the hell they're calling this thing, that starts today. That's why they're doing that now, so that way they can incentivize players playing, and playing for something, as opposed to just like, I don't really want to try that hard. Now we're good. We'll just play for next game or next week or whatever. So
they came out with news this week too. They're giving money, cash prizes to like the winners and stuff for the players. They're giving them to the coaching staff as well. So they're really trying to incentivize playing your star players and things like that, which kind of leads us into the next thing that I wanted to get into, is the James Harden trade. So the 76ers finally ended up trading James Harden to the Clippers, and it honestly ended up working very well for the Clippers, who only had to they get James Harden, they get PJ Tucker and an extra piece. They give up Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, KJ Martin. So, depth bench pieces. They give up the OKC's first round pick. So 2 first round picks, 1 first round pick swap, and then some second round picks. So it's basically what I think what the Celtics gave up for like Drew Holiday and things like that. So like I think the Clippers kind of fleeced in this situation. We'll obviously have to wait and see what the first round picks and what those come out to be. But what were your overall thoughts on this trade, Drew? And how do you feel that this helps the Clippers or doesn't help the Clippers going forward? They had a very, entertaining game against the Lakers just the other day. And, Lakers got that dub, but what were your thoughts on the trade?
I mean, it was a trade that had to happen, essentially.
Yeah.
And then also, I just absolutely love it for my Tyrese Maxey and most improved player pick as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I almost said the the Eagles, wrong Philadelphia team. The 76ers have been actually looking pretty decent so far this year, taking care of business and everything.
Maybe the signing of the offseason, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
minimum.
he's finding his flow in the game, and he's finding out how to take all of the crazy, ridiculous, bad shots that he takes and take a bunch of those shots, but in a more controlled manner, because he has another superstar around him, so it doesn't look nearly as bad when he's doing that. And he's also open now when he's taking these shots, and we're seeing that as a result, he's being able to help out the offense mightily too. So, and then as far as that goes with the Clippers, we kind of talked about this last week too. If he was to go there, it makes him an instant championship contender. He went there.
They're probably top 3 or 4 for me now.
Yeah, like like we said before, if they are able to stay healthy, this is the if, as always. If they're able to stay healthy, they, I think, can definitely come out of the West. The only team that would be able to remotely compete with them would be the Nuggets. I maybe the Lakers,
I'm
but
gonna say, hey, man, do you know what happened on
like
Wednesday?
okay, yeah, without James
Lakers were
Harden
without
as
a
well,
lot of their players too.
a lot of their bench players that they're not
Hachimura is a
that good.
starter.
He should not be a starter.
Jared Vanderbilt's a starter.
He's not that great of a defender, but
Gabe
okay.
Vincent's decent.
Gabe Vincent is a body.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
okay,
All
he's
right.
not a body. But no,
Tarion Prince
I
was out. Come on now.
want to talk about a body.
Okay, he's a shooter.
He is a cone.
Okay.
That is a fact. There's no
No.
denying that.
It was very surprised too, because we had Paul
yeah.
George and Kawhi Leonard playing a back-to-back. That was entertaining. That was a great game.
Yeah, so a lot of people thought that they were gonna, load management, sit out, and everything like that. But to our surprise, they were actually able to play in the game. Paul George ended up fouling out, which ended up ultimately resulting in the Clippers to lose the game. But
Overtime.
yeah, credit where credit's due. The Lakers ended up taking down the mighty Clippers.
I think they were
Not at full
0
strength
9
yet, but
over the past like 3 seasons against the Clippers or something like that. No,
yep.
it was bad. It was bad. Not over the past 3 seasons. Over the past couple of seasons. So yeah.
Yeah, the one of the things I kind of want to like look at going forward is these older teams coming off of back to backs, because they're the one of the main things that they're trying to avoid is resting on home games on back to backs in primetime games or just home games in general. That way, teams can or players fans can see these star players play because ultimately that's
Ooh,
what
hundreds
you
of
want to
dollars for
see.
these tickets.
Yeah, and so we might see this in the reverse way where players are doing load management or not necessarily sitting out, but they're only going to play, like 20 minutes instead of like the usual 38 minutes. And that's going to be more so on the road as opposed to at home. So going forward, that might be something to look at and check out if you're looking to fade certain teams in certain spots like that. So.
Yeah, talking about minutes restrictions, the Lakers were supposed to have minutes restrictions on LeBron coming into the season.
Yeah.
I think they said they wanted to do 30, 31. And LeBron said, F that. And he's currently 7th in the NBA in minutes, 38. About to be, was he 38 now or about to be 38? Or about to be 39, something like that.
Yeah, about to be 39.
About to be 39, and he's playing great basketball. As we mentioned, had the win against the Clippers where he dropped 35, 12, and 7. Is actually shooting very well. Has not been shooting good from the free throw percentage, but what's new with LeBron and free throws. But overall, has been very good. And is currently, as we mentioned earlier, number 1 in the league in clutch time points. So. Any surprises or things that you want to get into specifically over the past week and a half of the NBA season?
One thing that I get, maybe it's not that big of a surprise, but something that's kind of concerning is where the Bucks are when it comes to defensive rating. They're not dead last, which is good, but they're second to dead last. So
could be worse,
right? Yeah, they're only above the Washington Wizards. So that's not a company you want to be in. And looking at the buildup of their team, like obviously, you go from Dame to from Drew Holiday to Dame, like that's obviously like a drop in offense right there too. But it's also like their interior defense as well. That's getting kind of beat up and bullied. And Brook Lopez isn't the same defender. Like he's 35, 36 now. He's getting up there in age, not able to keep up with the old young bucks as he used to. And so he's not the defensive MVP candidate that he was in years past. So I think that's going to be a major problem going forward, especially in the playoffs. If they can't get stops, like offense only takes you so far. Defense travels, offense doesn't. So I think it's definitely one thing that's kind of concerning. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I knew it was going to be bad, but not this bad. for
Yeah,
sure.
that's what we had talked about earlier in the season. Thought that
Mhm.
obviously the loss of Drew Holiday makes them a worse defensive team, but didn't necessarily think that Damian Lillard would be that much of a liability to create them to be actually a bad defensive team. As of right now, they have not been a good defensive team. Had the explosion against the 76ers where they go on this huge run, but then the 76ers walk them down and they nearly lose. So they end up winning by 1 point. They lose to the Hawks, barely beat the Heat. And then, they're now 2-3 to start the season as they got whooped by the Raptors. So it's been kind of weird. I've watched a few of those games and, they obviously start Giannis and Damian Lillard, but they kind of try to stagger their minutes. So at least one of them is always on the court. And there's been times where it looks elite, but there's also been times where it's gotten very stagnant. So then it kind of just turns into, Dame's turn, Giannis's turn, and it doesn't really seem to really have a flow or system in place offensively. So it has been kind of interesting. They play the Knicks tonight, and you know, I don't know. This is kind of, I still think they're going to be a great team, an elite team in the East, but it's kind of one of the reasons why I did have the Boston Celtics over them as number one in the Eastern Conference, because even though, the Boston Celtics have new players too and have lost a lot of their key players, I think that the core of, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown is still going to, we know what that is. The Bucks are still going to try to be able to find their groove with Giannis and Dame throughout the season. So not too worried,
Mhm.
but it is something to note.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point too, right now, per cleaning the glass, Boston is number one in offense and number one in defense. So, like,
Is that good?
it's not bad.
Yeah.
um,
So
yeah, I mean,
Boston is
I
currently. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, um, I think that to your point again, like Boston, if they can keep up their offensive prowess, then their defense has always been elite. That's never been a problem. But their offense kind of comes and goes in waves. But if they
Mm.
can be more consistent on the offensive end, then I think that this can definitely play out. And Porzingis is definitely helping out that team more so than what I thought he was going to help out. But and they're also playing a little bit faster than what I expected as well too. So yeah.
Definitely, yeah. No, it's just going to boil down to consistency from the offensive end of Boston Celtics. We know they're going to be a great team. So they currently sit 4-0. 76ers right behind them, 3-1 without James Harden, and obviously now they're without him for the long run. And then your Hawks are sitting in third currently, Drew. So that's been
Hey,
they've actually been
tried to
playing
tell you.
well. Yeah, and DeJounte Murray's looked a lot better with Trae Young this season. Obviously, it's still early, but they've been clicking on all cylinders to start this season. And the Bucks currently sit, I believe, sixth or seventh at 2-2. One surprise out of the East is, I think that you are less surprised by it than I am, is the Miami Heat. Obviously, they are without a lot of their players. They lose Gabe Vincent. They didn't get Dame. They lose Strus. So they are without a lot of their players. Tyler Hero has looked very good this season. I think he's averaging like 25, 5, and 6 or something like that. But the Miami Heat haven't been able to pull together wins overall. They're currently last in the East at 1-4. So do you think that they're going to be able to get things right? They're kind of an older team at this point in time. Obviously, with they're starting Kevin Love, they got Jimmy Buckets and stuff. Bam's still, sort of in his prime, and Tyler Hero's still young. But it's been kind of weird the way that they've been losing games, and I'm not exactly sure it's something that you can necessarily fix that easily.
I for one am just glad that they are losing these games. Personally,
Why?
I I I always enjoy, like, I always respect the Heat. Like they have a really good franchise and everything. They always do everything the right way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm happy because well, because I had the Hawks, man. Like
Okay.
that's why. Um, and so it's nice to be right about everything once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Drew's gonna take
But
his victory lap 5 games into the season, because this is
I
as
know
right as he's ever gonna be.
it's just like the Packers too when they started out hot
Right?
and then
Yeah,
now
I'm
they're
looking at
like, oh
him.
Jesus, look away. Yeah. So I'll take my victory lap while I still can, and then
Hmm.
fast forward, the Hawks are gonna be like like I don't know 5-36, and then the Heat are gonna be in the at the top of the division as well, and yeah.
Hmm.
But for now, I will take my victory lap. As at the current point in time, the Heat are currently ranked 17th on on defense when it comes to offensive rating. And when it comes to offensive rating, they are rated, got to scroll quite far down here, 26th
Yeah,
in offensive rating.
doesn't look that
So,
great.
yeah, so typically they're able to, if they're not scoring on offense, which they never were really like a high caliber offense in the first place. I think they finished
Their
around like
calling card's always been
24th.
defense
Yeah, like they finished like in the mid 20s or so last year,
and good
and
shooting.
yeah. Um, but this year their defense is also letting them down, and that's really what's been their demise. So if they're able to somehow turn that around, maybe not playing Tyler Hero so much because he is
He's
cannot play Luka
scoring,
defense, but
but he
well,
can't play
yeah,
defense.
that helps. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I mean, yeah, you got emo Jimmy out there. Just I feel bad for him. He's sad, a little depressed, and his team's not winning. So
Yeah,
it's not a good look right now for them. But I do think they'll definitely turn it around. Like this is the Heat teams they've never really been just terrible. They're always either
yeah,
middle of the pack or better than average. And then
definitely.
you can always count on them going forward in the playoffs as well too. So
Hmm. Talking about bottom of the conference, we also have the Memphis Grizzlies, who are at the bottom of the Western Conference and are currently have the worst record in the NBA, sitting at 0-5. Obviously, they're without Ja to start the first 25 games of the season. At this rate, he's going to have a lot of work to do when he gets back. I still think they're going to be fine, but this 0-5 is pretty bad to start. Marcus Smart and Desmond Bain, it hasn't clicked necessarily on all cylinders, and they haven't been as good defensively as I expected them to be, at least to start the season. I thought they were going to be able to be a very good defensive team with Marcus Smart starting, with Desmond Bain. You still have Jaren Jackson, as well as versatile wings in length. To start the season, I expected Steven Adams to come back, but he had his knee surgery and now he's out for the season. So that loses a lot of the kind of size and grit that we were expecting to have them when he did come back, as he missed a lot of the of last season too and the playoffs, as well as Brandon Clark, who's still out for them as well. So, what are your thoughts on the Grizzlies so far? Do you think they're going to turn things around, or do you think that they are going to potentially, be that bad? Obviously, things will be
um,
better with Ja, but until then,
yeah, I mean, like it's not gonna they're not gonna go 0-82. Like so but I mean I do think that this we kind of saw this last year where 2 years ago they were actually pretty good without Ja. Last year they weren't
yeah,
actually all that great without Ja. And we're kind of seeing that follow through this year as well. Which is one of the reasons why I had thought about having Desmond Bain as most improved player, because like if it's not him, then who else? Because they're not getting offense from anywhere else. They're currently last in the league when it comes to offensive rating,
mm-hmm.
and like they just are super stagnant on the ball. Like
And they're
it's one
bottom third
pass and
defensively
then
too.
just yeah, exactly. I think they're like 22nd or something like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's one of those things where the offense isn't doing anything. They're dribbling the air out of the ball, and then they go play defense, which used to be their one of their better assets. Um, and like they're not getting a lot of they're allowing a lot of second chance points as well too. Usually, we've seen them in years past being like one of the more high caliber rebounding teams. But I'm scrolling down all the way down to the bottom here, and they're 23rd in the league in rebounds. I believe
yeah.
like the past 2 years they've been either first or second in rebounds.
That was with
So
Adams and Clark.
exactly. And so like I believe they were like in the not even like the 99th percentile, but like the 100th percentile when it came to rebounding efficiency.
Top tier.
Um, like literally like the as elite as you can get when
Yeah,
both of them are on the court. Him and Jaren Jackson, Adams and Jaren Jackson specifically. Um, but yeah, I mean, without Adams, like it's a lot more of a blow than what people actually realize. So, that being said, he's out for the year, but Ja is coming back in 20 games. But
eventually.
maybe yeah. So the cavalry is coming. Just hold on. Um,
Yeah,
but it's definitely not looking good right now.
yeah.
They're third right now in the league in 3-point attempts. but they are currently 23rd when it comes to 3-point percentage. So
That don't add up.
chucking and ducking. Yeah.
Fair enough. So yeah, I think they'll eventually get it figured out. And when Ja comes back, I still think that they will be one of the better teams in the West. It's just a matter of like what's their record going to be when Ja does come back. So, and obviously, I'm sure the Ja is still, practicing and trying to stay in shape, but it's going to take him a little bit to probably get going as well and get reincorporated into the offense, which does look different than last year. Also, so
And
that's
he's an
something to
injury
take
prone
into
guy
consideration.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, tied with the Celtics for the best record in the NBA and currently number one in the West is the Dallas Mavericks. I don't want to say it's like 100%. I'm surprised. Luka has been elite. He's probably the favorite right now when it comes to MVP just early on into the season. 35, 10, and 10 basically is what he's been averaging. Kyrie's been in and out of the lineup. I think he's supposed to play tonight, but I think he's missed 3 or 4 of the 5 games that they've played, and it's just basically been all Luka. So thoughts on the Mavericks so far? Do you think that they are going to be, as good as they've been so far? Like, I think you had them in your top 6 already. So probably going to hold them right around there, or what are your thoughts so far on the Mavs?
Yeah, I had him around 6 in my ratings. But then to your point, I was pretty out on Luka as MVP. Not necessarily that he wouldn't be in the conversation, but more so like he always does this, right? He's always
I just
great.
didn't think
We
they
know
won enough
that.
games. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
actually playing winning
And so
basketball.
yeah, right now he's currently and in some books like FanDuel, he's tied with Nikola Jokic for MVP odds. And if he's not tied, then he's at least second. So it's, I mean, if he can keep up this caliber of play, I mean, then again, Jokic has to not get triple doubles like he always does, and making every play that he does look easy. But if he can keep up this kind of play, I think that well, my pick looks quite possible as the Mavericks at least getting the 6th seed. And then you bring in Kyrie Irving coming back too, and if
Might hurt
he's
him.
actually, I was gonna say if he actually plays, and doesn't go out on one of his tangents, we'll call them,
They don't need him.
then it'll be okay. Um, I'm as a well, I'm not an uncle, but I am Drew, and he is Uncle Drew, and, and so and so I hold a lot of space,
Yeah,
and grace
yeah.
for my guy.
Have a bond
It wasn't
somehow.
exactly it wasn't great when I had all this Kyrie Irving gear and he was saying like some suspect things, but you know
Guilty by
water under the
association.
bridge. Yeah, apparently. But yeah, so I mean, going back to the Mavericks and everything and their outlook on the season, they currently have the 3rd highest rating when it comes to 3-point percentage, and also their top 5 when it comes to offensive rating as well too. So they like they're definitely playing well, but I do think that it's one of those like wait and see kind of things because again, we're what 5 games in, 6 games in. Don't want to overreact to anything, but they have been been playing pretty well so far.
Yeah. Another, other than that, Warriors, Nuggets are at the top, tied for second with 4-1, but also tied for second is going to be the Pelicans, who have looked very good this season. Zion has been healthy and has been playing. He hasn't been going crazy stat wise, but they've just been playing winning basketball with him and CJ. Brandon Ingram's been out of the lineup and out of the games for a few of the 5, but the Pelicans have looked good and is a team that we both really like. It just all matters and boils down to the fact of them staying healthy. So talk about Zion Williamson and his injury proneness. Brandon Ingram has also been very injury prone over the past couple of seasons. So have to see when it comes to that. But what were your thoughts so far on the Pelicans?
So we liked the Pelicans coming in and everything, right? But then
no, you don't. Hate them.
I don't hate them. They're
regression to the mean. They're gonna have to.
Yeah,
they suck.
Okay, pretty much. But at the same time, we got to remember, like look at the caliber of teams that they're playing, and then
Yeah,
compare that to the rest of the league. So like,
competition.
okay, they beat the Grizzlies. All right, the
Everybody
Grizzlies
did.
are yeah, exactly. They beat the Knicks. The Knicks look pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then they got mollywopped against the Warriors.
Yeah.
Because like I mean, the line in that game I think was like 3 or 4 or something like that. And so even Vegas was like, oh yeah, this will probably be a pretty close game. Two high caliber offenses taking going head to head. Zion's finally healthy and everything too. No. What was that, 28 points? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they play against the Thunder. They beat the Thunder. Okay, the Thunder have been playing pretty well. Then they played against the Pistons. The Pistons are like a 30-win team, maybe. So
Entertaining.
like, like I don't want to say like they're not as good as they are, but they're not as good
I
as
think
they are right now.
seems like for
Like,
Drew, the Pelicans may be the Seahawks of the NBA. Like
okay,
that might
I
be a
guess
solid comparison.
whatever. But
Yeah.
I mean, one thing too, like we're talking about the Grizzlies, like not having any wins or anything. They do take on the my Portland Trailblazers, not my Portland
Yeah.
Trailblazers, but
Yeah. Your rookie of the
they
year.
you know what had happened was
Mm-hmm.
his
What's
ankle hurt.
Scoot's stats so far? Let me check that
I
out
don't
real quick.
know. They took him off the board. They don't have him up there anymore. It's weird. I don't know. Um,
Oh, there he is.
you don't
Eight,
need to look at that.
4-2.
Don't look
Eight,
at
four,
that.
and two. You know how like on ESPN stats, like it'll tell you there's stats like points, rebounds, assists, and then below it'll have their rankings. For points, it just says 150 plus. Like it stops.
Okay, whatever. Anyways,
He's hurt too.
yeah. So I mean that's why he hasn't been playing that well. Just little nerves. Being it's not easy carrying the whole team on your back. You know what I mean? But moving on, I do think that that Shaedon Sharpe has been helping out this roster quite a bit,
Oh yeah, definitely.
averaging 20 points right now. And I mean he could
Chauncey
be a
says he
candidate
wants
for
him to
most.
be Devin Booker.
Bro, okay, relax. But I do think that he could be a candidate potentially for most improved player if he's able to keep up this kind of play. And going down the stretch, I think he could very well be an all-star as well. I mean,
I don't
just
know
looking
about
back
that.
at his, I mean, hey man,
This year?
if he plays pretty, maybe
Okay.
just wait. I mean, if you're
Okay.
looking back at his game log, if you're looking back at the game log, 14, 3 and 6, 24, 2 and 5, 20, 2 and 5, 14, 3 and 5, and also 2 blocks in that game. And then also against that's today, so or coming up. But
Yeah.
last game he had 29 points. He had 1
Yeah.
steal, 2 blocks, 5 assists, 7 rebounds. Like,
Yep.
I'm just saying, like he's looked really good. And
No
if it's
favoritism
not gonna
going
be
on
Scoot,
here.
it's got to be somebody.
Yeah.
Um,
Somebody
like
needs to be good.
somebody's got exactly somebody's got to score. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think that Scoot will bounce back. I'm not concerned. Kind of concerned, but it's a long season. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think that obviously 5 games in, it's not going to change up anything. The only thing that would really change in my rankings would be in the Western Conference, would just be because of the James Harden trade. So obviously that would bump up the Clippers for me, who I have like right around the playing line. So I'd probably have them 3rd or 4th, like right with the Suns, Lakers. Yeah, I'm not sure how exactly that lineup's gonna look. You're starting James Harden and Russell Westbrook. I'm assuming with Harden or with Kawhi and PG, and then obviously you have Zubac, but I'm not exactly sure what they're gonna do, if that's gonna bode well for them or not. But side note, I just wanted to get like, how has James Harden been able to take complete control of the NBA? This man's like, you know what? I don't like it here no more. Fat suit time. Trade me. Like. And it's worked 3 times. He got out of Houston, he got out of Brooklyn, and now he got out of the Philadelphia. So like, it's working apparently, but
yeah,
I don't know how the Clippers are gonna look.
I think it's one of those things too where like we're seeing that players have a lot more control over the team
Definitely.
than
Superstar players.
like yeah. I mean, because you saw with Giannis the other night too, like he was yelling at the coach, "Call timeout," and then
Mhm.
he's oh yeah, okay, timeout.
Getting beat by
Like
30 by Raptors and Scotty Barnes. Call a timeout.
yeah, yeah. So like the players have it's I mean, the players have the most power, and we've seen that with LeBron and his teams.
Mhm.
Whatever LeBron says goes. Apparently, whatever James Harden says goes. Whatever
Mhm.
Giannis wants to do, you give me a point guard. Okay, we'll get you Dame. How does that work? Perfect.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. All right, I'll
like
resign now.
yeah, exactly. So, um, like we're really seeing that in these past few years, especially with the super teams coming up and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I think.
Got into a little bit. Last thing I want to get into is, Lakers appreciation segment. Lakers starting off season at Lakers starting off 3-2. Should have beat the Kings. Had a tough loss against the Nuggets, but we played them tough. But I think it just kind of goes to show that the Nuggets are kind of still, a tier ahead of people. Obviously got whooped by the Timberwolves, but they're not going to win every game. They probably played down to their competition in that game. But yeah, the Lakers have looked good. I do like the lineup. We're still battling through injuries, as we mentioned, with Vanderbilt still out. Now we have Hachimura with his eye injury, Gabe Vincent, Tarion Prince, whatnot. But I like the addition of Christian Wood because it allows AD to play the four, which is what he's most comfortable at. Doesn't have to bang against the big bodies and get tired all night. So it allows him to play the four. And Christian Wood has actually been a very solid piece for us. And then you have Jackson Hayes coming off the bench. But Cam Reddish, honestly, I feel like has been a really nice pickup. He's been a very good on-ball defender and actually kind of locked up. Hey, he was getting some cookies on PG. I ain't gonna lie, he played very big for us. And if he's able to hit shots, big shots, then yeah. And then Austin Reeves had been very slow start to the season. Got his contract, got his bag, and I think he forgot how to act, and was very
You
inefficient.
know, all his
And then
money weighing me down.
legit. So finally, like he had a coming out party since he got his bag against the Clippers, and even though he had a slow start against the Clippers, kind of went him mode, and LeBron said go win this game and kind of took over in overtime. And once PG was able to get out, kind of just took over for them. So, what are your thoughts so far on the Lakers, Drew? And I think we had them around the same spot, around second or third in the West. So
Yeah, I mean, like if LeBron keeps on doing what he's doing, like I don't see why he can't win MVP.
yeah,
Because like this man's is playing like it's his first year in the league, which is
I'm
crazy to think about.
99% sure he's
Like
bionic.
exactly. Speaking of bionic, we were talking about Kawhi Leonard and his laser beam shots.
Legit.
But just locking in.
Parallel to the
And some of
rim.
LeBron, exactly, some of LeBron shots have actually in years past do look like line drives, like he's throwing it to the backboard. But I mean now he's got a nice
Shooting out
arc
of
on it. He's
pocket. Yeah.
yeah, he's pulling up. He's
Looking like
like, hey
Curry out
man, you know
here.
what I'm yeah, right? He's like, you know what I'm about. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I don't know, it's crazy to think that like he's still this is what year 2021 or something like that, and he's still
You're
playing at
21.
the
Yeah.
highest caliber that he's been known to be playing at, and regardless of competition, he's still going out there and finding different ways to beat teams. And in games where you'd expect him to sit or to rest or be on a minutes restriction, he's like, "Nah, fam, I'm good. This
Mm-hmm.
is what we're about." And I'm glad to see it because in years past, he's always been kind of that guy. Oh yeah, load management. I mean, I'll sit out this game. My pinky toe kind of hurts and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think he's kind of realizing I only got a few more of these left in me, so I'm just gonna go out there hoop as I know I can. My son's coming into the league next year. Maybe I can play with him. Maybe I play against him, dunk on his ass or something. And so yeah,
Yeah. It was a great star-studded game with the Lakers and Clippers. It was like great for the NBA, great for fans. You had LeBron and AD, and then you had Kawhi, PG, and Russ, and then you actually had everybody else coming along for the ride, whether it be Austin Reeves or D'Lo, who also dropped 25 plus and things like that. So it was a great game. So hopefully the player incentives, the game requirements, and the in game kind of does have a positive effect, and we're able to see a lot more of these kind of star matchups when good teams do play against each other. So was there anything else that you wanted to get into or cover within the NBA?
one thing that's kind of interesting too is that DeAndre Ayton, since he's been in Portland, he's currently ranked 6th right now in value added. So, I mean, it's
Oh,
not the worst thing in the world. But
yeah.
one thing
Doesn't look
too
good
is
too.
that I mean, well, it doesn't got to look good. It just got to be statistically accurate. All right?
I think the
But
last game
okay,
I saw
so
him played, he was like 8-9. I don't understand. I don't
but
understand
yeah,
that,
like
but okay.
one of the interesting things too is that along with Scoot struggling is
Mm.
the pick and roll offense is where Scoot thrives. And there was a stretch, I think against the Pistons, it was where they did like 3 pick and rolls in a row, and it was like unstoppable. They scored all 3 of those times. But then they called a timeout. They subbed out, I think, Scoot, and then they never ran it again. And then it's like what, Chauncey,
That
sir,
sucks. Get
let's
him out
talk
of here.
about it. I was like you can't. This man can't hoop, in
Can't
pick and
do
rolls
that.
and shit. It's like
Score.
exactly. So I mean, it's not all on Scoot and it's not all on Aiton, but when they have them working together in that pick and roll offense, I do think it's something that's going to be good for them going forward and something to look for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always going to poke fun at Scoop because of these Trailblazers and Drew, but I think that he's going to be fine. He's still trying to find his flow within the NBA and, trying to get the shot going. So once he comes back from his injury and is able to, kind of get a better understanding of how the game works within the NBA and, get more consistent within his shot, I think he'll be fine. So
Mm-hmm.
anything else
And
you wanted to cover?
one last thing too is this is ridiculous. This is the perfect example of small sample size. I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name, but Eugene something on the Washington Wizards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, since he only plays 9 minutes a game, he is second in the league of all qualified players in terms of player efficiency rating. Only a half point behind Joel Embiid. So
Well,
when you hear people recording stats and telling you all these stats about how this player is great and that player is great, think about the sample size that they are talking about, because this is a perfect example. I've never even heard of this guy in my life.
don't forget about
Eugene.
Eugene
I was like,
Omoruyi
yeah,
out of
yeah,
Oregon.
he's
Interesting.
averaging 8, 3, and no assist. So,
On 8 minutes. Interesting.
yep,
That's kind of funny.
efficient. 71% field goal percentage. So,
Well, other than that, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It's been a jam-packed episode. We're probably going to have to split it up, because I think we're over 2 hours or close to it. But yeah, thank you for listening. Obviously, find us wherever you can find your podcast, whether it be Spotify or the podcast app or everywhere else. Also on YouTube, for those of you watching on YouTube, follow our links in the description for our Instagram and our pics. If you like this video, give it a like. If you don't like it, dislike, whatever helps. Give it a comment. And give us a follow too. So we'll make sure to see you guys next week. And Drew, do you have anything else to say?
yeah, I mean, just one last thing is, like I gotta go because I got these, about to get these tacos. I'm at this place out here where I'm at, and so, yeah, really nothing else to add. Another,
Shout out Rangers.
another profitable week I'm hoping for us. But other than that, WNBA is over, MLB is over, and just looking forward to college basketball as well, because those players actually play hard every game, unlike the NFL and NBA. We'll
and
say.
defense.
NFL they play pretty hard too. Yeah, but yeah,
For sure.
that's all I really got. So
We'll see y'all next week.
peace.